Well, good morning, everybody out there in internet land. My name is Brian Trippett. I am your Front Porch Conservative. Welcome, as always, to Front Porch Brunch, a news program dedicated to allowing you, the hardworking American out there, the opportunity to catch up on the news, find out what's going on in the world, and do it in a very relaxed, chilled manner. Again, my name is Brian Trippett. I am known in social media as the Front Porch Conservative, the only Front Porch Conservative. There are many imitators, but there is only one American original Front Porch Conservative. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is I. I am here to help illuminate, dispel the darkness, and basically give you a chance to find out what's going on your terms, your time, and more importantly, your relaxed state. It is so good to have you here this morning. I'm waiting for making a few little adjustments here, checking on some things. Oh, what a Saturday morning it's going to be. I have a tally of tabs lined up in front of me. Things to talk about that have gone on this week. Some pop culture related, some political, some whatever. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting Saturday morning. We're going to give it a minute or so before let everybody get in here. Again, my name is Brian Trippett. I am your Front Porch Conservative. We are broadcasting on YouTube. We are broadcasting on Rumble. We are broadcasting on Twitter. And as soon as I can figure out how to make this thing work on a couple other platforms, there's a few other places I'd like to start broadcasting as well, because I'd love to see people, find us in different formats, different genres. So, oh, it has been a week. Good morning. Oh, there's my lovely Leah. Lovely Leah. Leanne. Mwah, darling, so good to see you. Good morning, Mr. Lowry. Glad to have you out there. Ah, so good to see you guys. It has been personally quite the week for me. You never quite know what's going to happen in social media, and sometimes, mind and body don't allow you to do everything you want to do, but got to do most everything I wanted this week. Got some videos out. Had a wonderful discussion with Crash Mondo Jr. and Cam from Flagrant Triggers. We did that on Thursday night for Chatting on the Front Porch. If you have not seen that live stream yet, it is still up on YouTube and Rumble. I have no intention of taking it down because, frankly, those two cats need to be listened to. They are the clout goblins. They do a wonderful live stream on Saturday nights talking about issues that are going on in the world from a very unique perspective. They are two really good men, and I was very happy to have them on and very gracious to be able to be in their company. Wonderful experience for me. Oh, and then as always, it's good to be here on Saturday morning. I love doing this live stream. It gives me a chance to chill out, relax, kind of, put my thoughts together, talk to y'all. Y'all can talk to me. And we kind of figure out what's going on in the world and why, and we get to talk amongst ourselves about what it all really means, absent the filter of the gatekeeping media. And I don't even call them mainstream anymore. They're not mainstream media. They're gatekeepers. That's all they are. They're trying to protect their own, interests, invested territories, etc. They don't inform people, they propagandize. My philosophy is this. I would rather lay out the information to you and let you talk about it, and you decide what it really means. That to me seems fair. That's reasonable. Why not? Why shouldn't we do it that way? That makes more sense. So, we're going to talk about some stuff this morning. Some of it that, I got a chance to do some videos on, some things I didn't. And we'll see what happens. So if you're out there this morning, and if you would, do me a favor, if you haven't already, and Robert, I know you have, but shoot out a tweet, shoot out a getter. I don't even know if that's the proper term for what you do on the Getter platform, but we'll call it put out a getter, put out a truth on Truth Social, wherever you're at, broadcasting all around this crazy thing we call social media. Let people know we're here. Like I said, I saw Robert did that earlier this morning, and Leanne, if you want to, that's cool, and if not, that's fine. But if you happen to be watching this right now and you've got access to other platforms on social media, do me a favor and blast this thing out. Tell people to get in here. Don't get me wrong. Anybody who comes on my front porch, I'm glad to have them. But the more the merrier. I think it's a better party that way. So Oh, it has been a wild, wild week for news. And man, it's kind of like that old expression. I feel like a mosquito in a nudist colony. Where do I start first? But I want to start with, continuing some observations about this whole big controversy revolving around the country music singer Jason Aldean and his song and its subsequent video, Try That in a Small Town. And let me also say, for everybody who has watched that video so far and left comments, left thumbs up, first of all, thank you. It is always very gratifying to me as somebody who's relatively new in social media content creation when your work is not only commented on, good or bad. Okay, I even like the bad ones, believe it or not, for various reasons. I actually enjoy them. I think I have some sick, perverse desire to get the crap beat out of me. I have no idea why. Uh, but no, it's in all seriousness, it's very grateful to me when I get feedback about the videos and I do the live streams I do, and that one's really hit home with a lot of people, and I think for justifiably good reasons. So, for those of you who are watching this live stream, and if you're just now tuning in, my name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative. This live stream is known as Front Porch Brunch. It's dedicated to the idea of allowing you to catch up on the news from the previous week, but doing it in a very relaxed, easygoing manner. And for those of you who are not familiar with this kerfuffle that has come up about country music singer Jason Aldean and his song Try That in a Small Town, the story goes like this. Back about 2 months ago, Jason Aldean, who is a very well-known country music singer, released a song called Try That in a Small Town. Now, notice what I just said. He released it 2 months ago. Okay. This single has been out there on country music radio now, I guess, for what? Since May? Middle of May? And it's been getting airtime. Matter of fact, it's funny because, when all this blew up this week, I was sitting at my office at work, and it is directly, there's my office, the sidewalk, and then the street, and I could hear cars going by playing the song. Now, whether they were doing that as some, weird protest about what was happening, or whether it's just an issue that I happen to be listening at just the right moment for just the right song, I don't know. But I happened to hear the song on the radio coming out of some person's vehicle as they drove by. So the song's been out there for about 2 months. Well, as you would expect, in an effort to promote the single, in this day and age, Jason Aldean released a video on Friday of last week. And he put out a comment about what it was he was trying to say with the single. So let's take a look at that first, and then we'll get into what happens next. I'll blow this up a little bit, make it easier to read. Sorry about that. I should have done that before we got here. Okay, here we go. And this is directly from Jason Aldean's Twitter feed. Quote, when you grow up in a small town, it's that unspoken rule of we all have each other's backs and we look out for each other. It feels like that somewhere along the way, that sense of community and respect has gotten lost. Deep down, we are all ready to get back to that. I hope my new music video helps y'all know that you are not alone in feeling that way. Go check it out. Now, that was on the 14th of July, so what was that? Last Friday? Yeah, okay, last Friday. Now, okay, there's nothing crazy about that kind of message. I get it. And I don't necessarily disagree with him. I would argue that since the middle to late 1990s, the idea of community, that you know who your neighbors are, you talk to your neighbors, you hang out with each other, you're standing by the back fence of your house and one guy's on one side and one guy's on another, and you're all talking to each other about the kids or the spouses or jobs or whatever. I mean, we know each other, okay? And I won't say it's completely gone, but that sense of community, it's taken a serious hit over the years for different reasons, okay? mean, from my perspective, I'd argue a lot of that is the result of the technological age in which we live, the internet. I mean, seriously, it is so easy to have our nose down on our phones, and I'm just as guilty of this as anybody else. So I'm not pointing fingers here. I'm just saying that's the reality of the times. So that's what Jason Aldean is trying to get across in his single. Okay. It's what happens next when the video comes out is when all hell breaks loose. Okay. So there have been various articles written about this video. Now, the basic storyline goes like this. Video comes out last Friday, and it's playing in all the normal places you would expect to find a video in country music, particularly on a network called Country Music Television, CMT. Okay. It plays on Friday, it plays on Saturday, it plays on Sunday, and all of a sudden, here come the usual Karens out of the woodwork talking about how bad this video is. So I want to go next to an article from USA Today, and I referenced this in one of my videos earlier this week. What critics are saying about Jason Aldean's Try That in a Small Town. Some who saw the video took to social media to highlight what they found alarming. Shannon Watts, founder of gun violence advocacy group Moms Demand Action, said on Twitter that the song is, quote, an ode to a sundown town, suggesting people be beaten or shot for expressing free speech. It also insinuates that guns are being confiscated, the penalty for which is apparently death. Watts returned to Twitter Wednesday to celebrate CMT's decision. Now, what they're referencing with that is after all this blowback that CMT got, Monday evening, they made the decision to take that video out of their rotational play during their various shows, etc. So they're not even playing this video right now. Okay? Haven't since Monday evening. And they put out a press release to that effect. Okay? Now, go back to the article. Singer Sheryl Crow also spoke up on Twitter, quote, I'm from a small town, she wrote, addressing Aldean. Even people in small towns are sick of violence. There's nothing small town or American about promoting violence. You should know that better than anyone, having survived a mass shooting. What she's referring to is Jason Aldean was on stage in Vegas when that mass shooting went down back in 2017. This is not American or small town like. Okay. Now, as I said, in moments like this, I don't like listening to the critics. Okay? I really don't. It's not that they don't have important things to say or that they shouldn't be paid attention to, or in some cases they should be mocked thoroughly for their ignorance. I don't immediately just jump to what they say. I want to know what is at the heart of all this. So I'm going to do something that probably a lot of people in gatekeeping media would never do. And that is, yeah, good point. Yeah, exactly. And Leanne, we're going to get to that in just 1 second, my dear. Hold on. I'm going to do something that most people in gatekeeping media will not do. I'm going to let you read the lyrics to this song for yourself. Okay? And you can find them anywhere. It doesn't take a whole lot to do it. It really doesn't. So let's actually take a look at the lyrics to this song. And which, by the way, I do want to point out something else. This song was not written by Jason Aldean. Everybody on the left has jumped to the conclusion that Aldean is the one that wrote this song. That's not the case. This is from an independent website. It's called tasteofcountry.com. Kurt Allison, Tully Kennedy, Kelly Lovelace, and Neil Thrasher wrote Try That in a Small Town, the first single from Aldean's upcoming album. So Aldean didn't write it. Now, some people are going to say, well, yeah, but he sang it. He owns it. Oh, yeah, you're right. He sang it. He chose to perform the song, to make it his own, to put his name on it. I don't disagree with that at all. But let me make a very fine distinction here. Aldean didn't write this song. Okay? Let's just be very accurate about that. Because y'all on the left, y'all are all about accuracy, don't you know? Y'all all about getting the facts right. You're all about never jumping to conclusions, you know. So I just want to make sure that I'm doing the same as you would in this situation. But anyway, so let's read these lyrics for ourselves and just make some determinations, as Leanne appropriately does, about what they mean. Verse 1: Sucker punch someone on a sidewalk, carjack an old lady at a red light, pull a gun on the owner of a liquor store. You think it's cool? Well, act a fool if you like. Cuss out a cop, spit in his face, stomp on the flag and light it up. Yeah, you think you're tough. And then we go to the chorus. Well, try that in a small town. See how far you make it down the road. Round here, we take care of our own. You cross that line, it won't take long for you to find out. I recommend you don't. Try that in a small town. Second verse is, got a gun that my granddad gave me. They say one day they're going to round them up. Well, that shit might fly in the city. Good luck. Then back to the chorus. Try that in a small town. See how far you make it down the road. Round here, we take care of our own. You cross that line, it won't take long for you to find out. I recommend you don't. Try that in a small town. Then the bridge is full of good old boys raised upright. If you're looking for a fight, try that in a small town. It repeats the chorus again and then goes to the outro. Try that in a small town. Now, I'm going to ask the same question now that I asked originally. What's the problem here? What is the problem? I'll even leave these lyrics up here. You can see them for yourself. What's the problem, folks? I'm waiting. No, not my audience. My audience is too smart to get caught in this trap. I'm waiting for y'all out there on the left. Really, what's the problem here? All he's talking about is the fact that in small towns, people do watch out for each other. I mean, I don't know what it's like where you live, but in my town, which I consider small, even though we got a population of 45,000, you know, we do still try to watch out for each other as much as we can. Do we always live up to the golden rule? Well, I don't know. Are we always good Samaritans? Well, I don't know. But by and large, people do try and watch out for each other where I've come from. So I can understand exactly what the meaning of this song is. You know, try that in a small town. See how far you make it down the road. Round here, we take care of our own. You cross that line, it won't take long for you to find out. And I recommend you don't. Try that in a small town. I get it. I absolutely get where he's coming from. And the other thing that cracks me up is the critics of this song say, well, it's celebrating gun violence. Got a gun that my granddad gave me. They say one day they're going to round up. Well, that shit might fly in the city. Good luck. I had a comment that was left by a very nice, I'm going to say young lady. And after she made her initial comment, she then followed it up with, yeah, one of the most precious pieces of heritage we have in our home is a shotgun that my grandfather handed down. He's talking about the heritage of passing down an heirloom. I mean, it doesn't even matter what part of the country you're from. Normally, I would associate this with the South, but it can happen anywhere. In how many homes, how many sons have handed down to their sons, or grandfathers have handed down to their grandchildren a firearm, be it a pistol, be it a rifle, etc. They're not doing it with the intention of watching that son or grandchild go out and do violence. They're doing it as a way of inheritance. They're doing it by way of heritage because that's part of the culture that they grew up in. That's all Aldean's addressing in this. Okay? And I mean, for his part, Aldean spoke out about this whole controversy, and I don't blame him. I don't blame him a bit, and I wish more artists would do something like this, especially when they get taken the task for this. This is from Aldean's Twitter page. In the past 24 hours, I've been accused of releasing a pro-lynching song. We'll get to that in a minute. I'll explain what that's all about. A song that has been out since May and was subject to comparison that I would not too pleased with the world nationwide BLM protest. These references are not only meritless but dangerous. There is not a single lyric in the song that references race or points to it, and there isn't a single video clip that isn't real news footage. And while I can try and respect others have their own interpretation of a song with music, this one goes too far. As so many have pointed out, I was present at Route 91 where so many lost their lives, and our community recently suffered another heartbreaking tragedy. No one, including me, wants to continue to see senseless headlines or families ripped apart. Try that in a small town, for me, refers to the feelings of a community that I had growing up, where we took care of our neighbors regardless of the differences or backgrounds or beliefs, because they were our neighbors, and that was above any differences. My political beliefs have never been something I've hidden from, and I know that a lot of us in this country do not agree on how we get back to don't agree on how we get back to a sense of normalcy where we go at least one day without a headline that keeps us up at night. But the desire for it too, that's what this song is all about. Okay. Again, I ask, what's the problem? I tell you what, that first paragraph is a tour de force on how you answer stupid Karens. I mean, you Karens out there that are protesting this song, y'all ought to be ashamed of yourselves. Not only are you engaging like a bunch of hysterical harpies, you're intellectually dishonest. I mean, seriously, y'all, you ought to be ashamed of yourselves. You want to advocate a position that's for gun control? Fine. Making some argument that a country music song with the kind of lyrics that Jason Aldean has in them, and you somehow extrapolate that out and that he's somehow pro-gun violence and pro-lynching and saying that he, supports the idea of sunset towns, is just stupid. Seriously, go sit down. Shut up. Now, if you don't know what a sunset town is, and there are going to be some young people watching this live stream who are like, what's a sunset town? Basically, it goes back to a day and time where certain ethnicities were told either implicitly or explicitly, don't be in our town when the sun goes down. I'll give you a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Without doxing anybody or, speaking disparagingly of any other cities in the state where I live, there is a town very near to where I live that back in the day used to have a sign at the city limits, and it read like this: N-word, don't let the sun set on you in this town. Let me say that again. In this town near where I live, back in the day, they had a sign at the city limits, and it read, N-word, don't let the sun set on you in this town. Translation, you're here after sunset, it's going to get bad. Fortunately, that sign's long gone. That attitude is long gone. Yeah, there's still individuals that are stupid enough to believe like that, but you can't say that to everybody. So that's what they mean by a sunset town. Now, what's this pro-lynching thing everybody's talking about? Well, I want to show you images from the video. Now, obviously, for copyright reasons, I can't play the song. And I'm going to respect YouTube on this one. I might have my disagreements with, the leadership of YouTube, but okay, I'll respect their rules, and I agree with them on this, okay? So I can't play the song for purposes of copyright strike, but I can show you the images. And that's what I want to do here, okay? Now, where they're getting this pro-lynching thing in part comes from the fact that this video was shot at the courthouse in, I believe it's Columbia, Tennessee. Now, if you don't know anything about this courthouse and this town, two things happened here. Number one, in the 1920s, there was a lynching of a 19-year-old young African American named, I believe it was Henry Choate, Choate. And yes, exactly what happened. He was lynched in front of the courthouse. in the 1940s or 50s, there was a race riot in this town. So they're trying to make the argument that Aldean is celebrating lynching by the fact that, by association, look where he's shooting this video. And Leanne, yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The same sign was in my grandparents' town in Texas. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying it's long gone, but yeah, exactly. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking. This is why I love having you in my audience, by the way. You're just awesome. You really are. But let's play some of the images from this video. And I think, and see, and I gotta say this, from a video standpoint, this is very well done. Look what they're doing here on the courthouse. They're playing video of riots and things that have happened around the country, and it happened during the BLM and the Antifa riots in 2020 and thereabouts. And that's all that Aldean's doing. He's putting it up against the walls of the courthouse. It's very brilliantly done. I mean, here's footage of, robberies, etc. And he's tying all that together. He's tying all that together with the lyrics of his song, which, in a small town, we've got each other's back. Again, for you Karens out there that are, I did not know that. Hang on a second. I'm going to pop up her comment. Look at this. I did not realize that was the case. So here's the question for you Karens out there. Y'all gonna start denouncing Miley Cyrus, or is she protected? Because apparently she shot a Christmas movie there. Do we have it? I tell you what, for those of you out in the audience that are watching this right now, if you find a statement from Miley Cyrus about, the fact, I denounce the fact that I did this film, I didn't realize the racist history of this town, please show it to me, because I'd love to see that. Because I want to know, it gets even better. She was with Disney when they did this. Now it's getting good. This is why, ladies and gentlemen, I have the smartest audience on the internet. This right here, there we go. This right here is proof of why I've got the smartest audience on the internet. Yeah, if somebody out there happens to find this, pop it in a chat. I want to see this. I want to see if Miley Cyrus and Disney are now coming out and denouncing, themselves and or this town that they filmed a movie in. Or if the Karens out there are going after Miley. Because if Jason Aldean's a bad guy for filming a video in this place, then she's just as bad. Just as bad. So, back to some of the imagery from the video. I mean, yeah, that's all Aldean's doing in this. It's just he's putting images that have happened over the past few years of violent protests, vandalism in some cases, and just putting it up and letting people see it. And I'll argue, and I did earlier this week, that this is nothing more than holding a mirror up and saying, look at what you have wrought. Take a good long look at what you've brought about. And that's driving them crazy. It's like a cross to the vampire. Yep, there you go. It hits a nerve because it's the truth. Try that in a small town. See how far you get. I love this one image right here where, I don't know if y'all seen this one or not. I'll back this up. But two guys walk into a convenience store. There it is. Blow this up. Two guys walk into a convenience store, hold a gun up, then watch what happens next. A good Samaritan takes these guys down, and one of them takes down the other guys, go scrambling out the door. I love that. That's the kind of thing Aldean remembers growing up, where we watched each other's back. I just am amazed at the people protesting this song I mean, y'all are a bunch of intellectually bankrupt individuals, and you're just a bunch of screeching, hysterical Karens. There's nothing wrong with this song. And if you want to know what the American people really think of this song, take a look at this. I pulled this up a little bit earlier before we got started. Well, let me do something else first, real fast. Everyone keeps saying that that Jason Aldean's being racist, or at least the critics of it. Well, take a look at this. This is from Billboard.com. Blanco Brown defends Jason Aldean amid "try that in a small town" backlash. Quote, "I don't believe he's a racist." And I want to read a little bit into this article. Jason Aldean is taking heat for the release of the music video for the song "Try That in a Small Town," and now his BBR music group label mate, Blanco Brown, is coming to his defense. Quote, "Aldean's stream are gonna go through the roof. I hate the words to that song, but I don't believe he's a racist. One of the first to check on me in my time of need." Brown tweeted on Thursday, July 20th, referring to how the embattled country singer reached out to him after the Get Up singer was involved in a near-fatal motorcycle accident in 2020. Just bad songwriting. Now, I will say this. Okay, first of all, I don't know who this Blanco Brown is. I'm not familiar with his music. Um, but I will say this. I have more respect for his criticism than I do everybody else right now. Because to me, he's doing it the right way. If you don't like the lyrics to the song, okay, fine. Blanco Brown has said, look, I don't like the lyrics. I just don't think they're well written. I definitely don't think that Jason Aldean's a racist. But are you hearing anybody even mention what he's saying beyond this article that we just found? No. Because everybody's got to keep up the controversy, and everybody's got to keep up the whole, oh my gosh, he's racist, he's pro lynching, he's everything. Oh, for heaven's sake, people, shut up. Y'all just a bunch of hysterical Karens. That's all you are. Now, to go back to what I was originally going to do, how is this song doing, by the way? Number one on iTunes charts, and it's been that way now for 4 or 5 days. And there's no signs of it slowing down. And go back to that video. I will show you one thing from YouTube. Take a look at this. That thing's been out for 7 days. That video on YouTube has 12 million views. Oh, okay. Yeah, all right, Robert. I can kind of see what you're saying. Yeah, I can see what you're saying. If he'd have left it there, it really would have been perfect. Okay, I can respect that. But I still think, in one sense, if he's going to make a criticism of the song, he's doing it the right way. But I can understand where you're coming from. You know, my point is, if you're going to criticize the song itself, not the motives, because to make the argument that Jason Aldean's racist is crazy. But I can definitely understand where you're coming from. So yeah, this is where the current thing stands with the whole try that in a small town controversy. So yeah, thanks a lot for you Karens out there. You have helped Jason Aldean make this song even bigger and better than what it otherwise would have been on his own. He doesn't really need your help for promotional purposes, but you're doing him a wonderful favor. So congrats. You have Barbara Streisand this thing to new heights that people never realized were possible. So there. Oh, where are we this morning? You're on planet Earth. All right, let me clear out some tabs here to make it easier on my poor little overworked computer. So, well, by the way, how y'all out in the audience doing? What y'all been up to this week? Good things, bad things? You know, it's one thing for me to sit here yammering on about myself. Well, what's going on with you guys? I mean, if you don't want to drop a comment in chat, that's fine. But you know, your host does care about you. So, let me pop some of this stuff out of here. And while I'm doing that, I'll set up our next story. It's about 11:05 on the East Coast on Saturday, July 22nd. My name is Brian Trippett. I am your Front Porch Conservative. If you have just stopped in on YouTube or Rumble or Twitter, this is Front Porch Brunch. It is a live stream where we try to catch up on the news from the previous week. And oh, what a week it's been in news. Oh, there's been stuff going on all over the place. Just plain crazy. Let us turn our attention to Congress. What's the opposite of progress? Congress. Well, it's an old. Oh, no! No, 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 my dear. Oh, goodness. Bless your heart. Are you okay? I mean, if you don't want to say anything, I get it. That's fine. But, I hope you're doing all right, Leanne. Bless your heart. We offer prayers and good karma in your general direction. So, we love you, darling. Oh, let's get to Congress. Now, normally these days, I don't put a lot of stock in the effectiveness of Congress. Okay, all right. Recouping severe dehydration. Oh, bless your heart. Bless your heart. I don't put a lot of stock in Congress. Now, I know that constitutionally they are a required institution and they are representatives of the people in theory. Well, that's being kind to everybody. There are a lot of good ones up there, but not enough of them. And as a general rule of thumb, I don't put a lot of stock in congressional committee hearings because a lot of it I think is theater. It's like that old line from an old Shakespeare play. It's full of sound and fury and it signifies nothing. If I actually thought that there were tangible results coming out of congressional hearings, then I would probably pay a lot more attention to them than what I do. Now, don't get me wrong. They have their purposes. My frustration is the lack of action coming out of what they do when they get finished with them. That said, however, there were two hearings this week that to me were extraordinary. They were, in their own way, the equivalent of John Dean sitting in front of the old Watergate committee back in the 70s, where he keeps talking, no one really pays attention, and then he says, well, on the tapes, and then all of a sudden everybody on the committee goes, what tapes? Well, this week we had the what tapes moment. Now, if you're wondering what I'm referring to, I don't know if you've heard it, but it's possible that our current president may have been involved in a influence peddling scheme and possible things beyond that. I know, shocking, I say. And it's a very convoluted sort of thing. Now, I'm going to give you the gist of what we know for those of you who may not have had a chance to keep up with this thing. A lot has been made about the president's remaining son, Hunter Biden. Now, I say remaining because Joe's oldest son, Beau, unfortunately died of cancer some years back. And by all accounts, Beau was a very decent human being. I don't agree with his politics, but he served his country overseas and just was otherwise a decent human being. You can't really use the word decent and Hunter Biden together. Something about cocaine and hookers with this guy. But here's what appears to be going on. Hunter is a businessman, an international businessman. He is, going to places like Eastern Europe, the Far East, and doing business deals in places like China and Romania and Hungary and Ukraine. Well, it appears, or let me back that up. It has been accused of Hunter that the only reason he's able to secure some of these deals, or the only reason he's given access, or the only whatever, is the fact that the people who are trying to deal with Hunter are really trying to get to Joe. In other words, Hunter's the middleman. Here's the business people on one side. Here's Joe on the other. And in order to get Joe, they got to go through Hunter, which Hunter is happy to let them do because he knows if they can get to Daddy, well, Hunter can close the deal because the business people apparently believe, hey, if we got access to a politician like Joe Biden, good times for us. Well, it goes a little further than that. It's reached the point that they're starting to become mounting pieces of evidence that Hunter not only fibbed on his federal tax returns, but that monies that he were being paid were somehow winding up getting their way to Joe. Now, a lot of evidence has been found, and a lot of it's been brought to light, and I will give Congressman James Comer of Kentucky, the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, and his staff and all the other members of the committee credit for this. They have been digging like a bunch of graveyard bandits, okay, as fast and furious as they possibly can through every resource they've got available to them. And they are starting to find out is this. Here's the business in whatever country. Money goes through a whole series of LLCs, etc., companies, etc., and they wind up getting paid through to Hunter and various other members of the Biden family. Now, you may have heard about a plea deal that Hunter has struck regarding his not paying enough in taxes and a gun charge, which we've talked about previously. Well, whistleblowers have come forward saying, hey man, our investigations were interfered with. He should have been charged with more than this. Now, Democrats in Congress and liberals in general are like, oh, no, that's not true. This is right-wing conspiracy, yada, yada, yada. Then something happened this week in front of the Oversight Committee that blew the doors wide open. Let us start with the inestimable John Solomon, a wonderful reporter in Washington, D.C. I'm going to...
Going forward.
This is more or less a teaser. So John Solomon's doing an interview with Kash Patel on the Salem News Channel. And I want you to hear what he sets up at the beginning of the week.
Going forward with this consequential investigation about Hunter Biden. But there's more. There's more. John, I know there's a piece about the whistleblower and the FBI that you want to touch on. So can you just tell us where you'd like to see this go in those lanes?
Well, before Devin Archer testifies next week, if that stays on course, this week on Wednesday, the IRS whistleblowers are going to testify in public for the first time before James Comer's committee. The House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Smith is going to attend that meeting, so it's kind of a joint investigation. Americans are going to see both men. They're going to get to learn the second agent's identity. His name has been withheld from the public at this point. They're going to get to see them testify. In advance of that, and I have confirmed from multiple sources that an FBI agent who worked with the IRS team has come forward and is now cooperating with Congress and can corroborate large parts of the IRS agents' stories about what went on with U.S. Attorney Weiss. That's a major breakthrough. Now you got two different agencies, two different types of whistleblowers coming forward, providing a singular portrait of what went on in the Justice Department. Big explosive revelations ahead, I think, in the next 48 hours or so.
Wow.
Okay. That's the teaser. On or about Wednesday or Thursday, this went down. This is a story from the New York Post. Headline: Foreign nationals gave Biden family and associates over $17 million. IRS whistleblower claims. Article written by Victor Nava IRS Special Agent Joseph Ziegler told the House Oversight Committee on Wednesday that Hunter Biden's overseas influence peddling operations have enriched the First family and their business associates to the tune of more than $17 million. The funds were raked in through various multi-billion-dollar payments made by foreign nationals to the Biden family-linked corporations between 2014 and 2019. Remember those dates, ladies and gentlemen, because from 2014 until January 20th of 2017, Joe Biden was still vice president. And I'll explain why that's important a little bit later. The Biden family's businesses dealings involve entities in Ukraine, Romania, and China. Roughly half of the $17 million in payments went to the first son, Hunter Biden, according to the IRS whistleblower, who was unmasked for the first time Wednesday during his congressional testimony. Quote, "This brings the total amount of foreign income streams received to approximately $17 million, correct?" House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer asked Ziegler during Wednesday's hearing. "That is correct," Ziegler confirmed. "The purpose of documenting the foreign sources is part of a normal international tax investigation," Ziegler said. "We have to figure out where the money is coming from." Ziegler and IRS agent Gary Shapley came forward to the House Ways and Means Committee earlier this summer, alleging a high-level cover-up in the government's 5-year-long investigation into tax and gun crimes allegedly committed by President Biden's son, Hunter. In Ziegler's testimony to the House Ways and Means Committee in June, he explained that over the course of the investigation, it was discovered that Ukrainian energy company Burisma Holdings Limited paid, quote, everyone involved approximately $7.3 million. Approximately total transfers going to the Biden family and associates from their dealings in Romania came to about $3.1 million, according to Ziegler, and total transfers to Hunter Biden's businesses from the Chinese firm CEFC came to about $6.9 million. So that gives you a total of $17.3 million. Comer argued Wednesday that the foreign payments were part of an influence peddling scheme to enrich the Bidens. Quote, "Despite creating many companies after the vice president took office, the Biden family used associate companies to receive millions of dollars from foreign companies in China, Ukraine, and Romania after foreign companies sent money to business associate companies," the Kentucky Republican said. The Bidens then received incremental payments over time to various different bank accounts. These complicated financial transactions were used deliberately to conceal the source of the funds and total amounts. No normal business operates like this. Last month, Comer teased that bank records his committee expects to obtain will reveal that the Biden family has accepted as much as $30 million from foreign entities. Ladies and gentlemen, it's worse than we thought. It's worse than we knew. This is madness. Between China and Ukraine, $17 million. Now, here's the setup. Here's the money over here. Okay? Here are all these LLC companies, yada, 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 corporations, yada, yada. Here's the Bidens over here. So, monies, companies, the Bidens. What Comer is alleging and what Ziegler is stating, Ziegler's stating they're getting paid way more money than we're talking about. We're talking $17 million here. If any of that money is traced from the corporations to the Bidens and Joe Biden in particular, then, ladies and gentlemen, it's game on. We've got a blatant influence peddling and bribery situation on our hands. Start the impeachment proceedings in the House Judiciary Committee. Start the paperwork. Now, remember what I said, and remember what this article said. From 2014 to 2019, Joe Biden was still vice president from 2014 to January 20th, 2017. If any of that money that went through Hunter and those corporations get into Joe Biden's bank accounts, that is blatant influence peddling. And if you're wondering how bad the influence peddling went, y'all hold on, because if you think this is bad, I got another piece of news to show you that's going to blow the doors off this. This is horrible enough. But somebody else over on the sideline started doing something that, man, this what they did might even be bigger than what James Comer's doing right now. Unbe-freaking-lievable. You've got FBI investigators, you've got IRS investigators, you've got whistleblowers from various other places. They're all coming together and saying the same thing. Our investigation was deliberately tampered with. Our investigation was hindered. And the press, the gatekeepers, say nothing about it. Nothing. Unbe-freaking-lievable. So yeah, normally I don't put a whole lot of stock in congressional hearings, but when you got one as explosive as this, where this has the potential to go, oh yeah, we have reached the John Dean moment of this whole situation. Because Joseph Ziegler's come forward and said, hell yeah, our investigation was tampered with. And he's laying out for God and everybody. I mean, the guy knows what he's doing. But all that, and I just said all that was crazy enough. Then we get an even bigger piece of news. And I have to temper this with a statement about Republican messaging. Republicans are terrible at timing. Bless their hearts. They really are. They're awful. They're just absolutely atrocious at it. Now, here's what I'm getting at. When you are trying to communicate something, and for those of you out there who are watching who are business people, you know exactly what I'm talking about, okay? You want to make sure that your messaging doesn't step on itself or step on one thing over another, okay? So here you have this big revelation coming out of Comer's committee in the House, right? You don't want anything overshadowing that. Well, unfortunately, the person who did what they did next, they should have waited 2 days before they dropped this piece of information. Now, it may very well be that they felt they had to do it this way, but then again, given what they were now telling us, my feeling is you could have waited 2 or 3 more days, maybe wait till Monday of this week to do it. But they did what they did. So what I want to do, and I know I'm teasing this, and I apologize. I'm not trying to, but I've got to set this up properly in order to show the full impact of what we're getting here. So I want to go back and reference an article from a couple of months ago related to a video that I did. And this is from the New York Post, and the headline is House Subpoenas FBI File on Biden Role in Criminal Scheme as New Whistleblower Emerges. Okay, now, for those of you who may not remember this video, or you may not have seen it yet, and if you're new to this audience, here's a glorious opportunity for you to go combing through the archive of past videos, and you can watch some of my work. And it's if I remember the video correctly, it's entitled Comer and Grassley Subpoena FBI Document, or something to that effect. Basically, what's this? James Comer, chairman of the House Oversight Committee, and Chuck Grassley, the ranking minority member on the Senate Banking Committee, had heard about a document in the possession of the FBI. The document is called an FD 1023. Now, for those of you out there watching this who are not familiar with what that document is, it's basically a confidential informant document, or confidential human resource. Basically, whenever a CI, or this confidential human asset, whatever you want to call them, whenever they tell something to the FBI, it's got to be documented somewhere on a form. Well, the FBI, in its glorious bureaucratic method, has come up with a form called an FD 1023. Basically, let's say, for example, that you're an FBI agent and I were giving you information. Well, anytime I give you information, you would pull out an FD 1023 and you type up everything I've told you and you put it down for God and forever the record, okay? Well, a couple months ago, Comer and Grassley had gotten word that this FD 1023 was in the possession of the FBI, and it detailed some extremely explosive information. Kind of related to, but yet separate from what Comer was working on. Well, as is the case these days, the deep state stonewalled the release of this document. Now, you wonder why I use the words deep state as opposed to the FBI. I'm sorry, the FBI is just as much a part of the deep state, the deep bureaucratic state, as any other institution in Washington, D.C. So the deep state stonewalled the release of this FD 1023. Well, enter Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa. Bless his heart. And now, if y'all been watching my live streams long enough to know, you know that the expression bless your heart is used in so many different contextual ways. In this case, bless your heart is, God, I'm glad you are around. You're so freaking cool. Okay. If you don't know anything about Chuck Grassley, he has been in the United States Senate now, I think, since 1982. This boy's been around a while. He is 89 years old. And if you somehow think that his age has diminished him, well, he might be a step slower and he might speak a little bit softer, but don't ever make the mistake of thinking that Chuck Grassley is not keeping up with the game. He might not be able to throw a fastball the way he used to, but let me tell you something. To me, he is a combination of Lieutenant Columbo and an old bloodhound dog. You don't want this guy getting the scent of something and then turn him loose on the trail. It might take him a little while to get to what he's hunting, but he will pin it down. And sure enough, that is exactly what Chuck Grassley has done. So I want to go directly to his Twitter page. Yes, this 89-year-old United States Senator has a Twitter page, and I'm going to play you a video that he put out. It runs about 1 minute. Hang on 1 second, folks. Here we go.
Well, it's been a long time, almost a year, but thanks to patriotic people that we call whistleblowers, in this case, in the bowels of the bureaucracy of the FBI and the Department of Justice, I'm able today to release to the American people the FBI document that we go by the number 1023 that has some information that the American people might know about some shenanigans that Vice President Biden and Hunter Biden may have been involved in. Now it's up to the FBI to tell us what they've done in regard to this. But I want the people to be able to read, the people of this country, to be able to read what I read 3 months ago so that they know. By the way, this was an unclassified document, and there was no reason it should have taken 1 year to get our hands on this document so the American people can read it.
Okay. You kind of begin to understand why I like Grassley. And, okay, the John Deere ball cap to me is just like the icing on the cake. No, I'm not speaking ill of the man. Don't misunderstand me here. I'm really not. But he's from Iowa. I'm from West Virginia. I can relate to this guy because I grew up around guys like this. Okay. Old worn out ball caps and checkered colored shirts and everything else. Grassley's my kind of speed. And in this day and age of high tech, social media sophistication, he may not fit into some people's idea of what a representative of the people ought to be, but I've never heard anybody say an unkind word about Grassley, and I've never heard anybody say anything untoward about him, that he's done anything inappropriate in office. And if you can come out of Congress with that reputation intact, you're doing something. So that sets it up. Here we go. In an article from the UK Daily Mail, what did Grassley get his hands on? Watch this. Released. Bombshell FBI document details alleged $10 million bribery scheme. Burisma CEO said Hunter was, quote, stupid, but necessary to keep on the board because his dad could protect them from problems. Article written by Kelly Lacko, executive editor of politics for DailyMail.com. A highly anticipated internal FBI document obtained by DailyMail.com includes bombshell claims that Joe Biden and his son Hunter forced a Ukrainian oil executive to pay them $10 million in exchange for then Vice President's influence in getting a senior prosecutor fired. Now, let me stop a second. Y'all remember that clip of Joe Biden out there where he's sitting in front, I think it's the Council of Foreign Relations, and he was talking about, a visit to Ukraine and how he was speaking with then president, and he told us, hey, you're going to fire this prosecutor or you're not getting the $1 billion. Well, son of a bitch, he's fired. Remember that in relation to the remainder of this article. Just think about the connection for a second, and I think you're going to put two and two together real fast. According to the conversations between a confidential source and Burisma CFO Vadim Pojarsky, in 2015, Hunter was hired onto the company's board to, quote, protect us through his dad from all kinds of problems. Burisma CEO Mykola here's where being West Virginia really hurts doing stuff like this. Lokjevsky told the source, quote, it cost $5 million to pay one Biden and $5 million to another Biden. Zolzewski added that although Hunter was stupid and that his dog was smarter, he was needed on the board, so everything will be okay. A little further into the article, according to the Blockbuster FD 1023 form, some of which is redacted, the confidential human source met with high-ranking Burisma executives between 2015 and 2016. Burisma was looking to pay up to $30 million on a U.S.-based oil and gas company. However, at the time, it was also the subject of a criminal investigation by Ukrainian prosecutor Viktor Shokin, another very familiar name in all this, which the company knew would have a substantial negative impact on Burisma's prospective IPO in the U.S. When asked about the investigation, the forum states Zolzewski said, don't worry, Hunter will take care of all those issues through his dad. Later, then Vice President Joe Biden made a statement that Shokin was corrupt and that he should be fired, removed from office. The damning form reveals Lokjevsky didn't want to pay the Bidens and say he was, quote, pushed to pay them. Asked whether Hunter or Joe told him to retain Hunter on the board, Lokjevsky said they both did. The source was asked why Burisma didn't just pay some attorney $50,000 to fight Shokin's investigation in Ukraine, to which Lokjevsky replied that he, Burisma, would likely lose the trial because he could not show that Burisma was innocent. When asked about how he would explain the suspicious wire transfers, he responded that, quote, he did not send any funds directly to the big guy, which confidential human source understood was a reference to Joe Biden. He added, Lokjevsky added it would take 10 years to find the records, i.e. illicit payments to Joe Biden. In a follow-up call, Lokjevsky boasted that Shokin had been fired, there were no longer any investigations into Burisma, and nobody could find out about his financial dealings with the Bidens. He added, as a backup to his claims, he has many text messages and a total of 17 recordings that he showed he was coerced into making the payments. Two last little paragraphs. The FBI FD 1023 form was created on, wait for it, June 30th, 2020, based on information from a highly paid informant and brought to the attention of Republicans by a whistleblower. Grassley Republican of Iowa, obtained and published the document after a months-long back and forth between the top Republican and the FBI through legally protected disclosures by DOJ whistleblowers. Everybody keeps asking, where's the smoking gun? There's your 45 and the steam's still coming out of the barrel. That's it. Between what the whistleblower in front of Comer's committee testified to on Wednesday and the release of this FD 1023, they've got him. They've absolutely got him. The only thing left is to get their hands on the recordings. Now, I will point out something else about this article from the UK Daily Mail, and I will literally show it to you. This is one of the reasons why I like foreign newspapers. If you want to see this FD 1023, they publish it. It's right, all 4 pages of it. It's a 4-page document. It doesn't take much to look at it, print it, whatever. So if you're watching this live stream and you're wondering, I really want to look at this for myself, go out to this UK Daily Mail article. It's dated, let me pull it back up real quick. This is from, it was published on July 20th, so basically 2 days ago, and it was updated yesterday at about 4:40 in the afternoon. But the original publication was 12:30 Eastern Standard Time, July 20th, 2023. And like I said, I love the UK Daily Mail for a number of different reasons, but here it is. You want to look at it, read it for yourself. You don't believe me? You don't want to believe the UK Daily Mail? You don't want to believe the New York Post? Fine. Fine. And that's entirely up to you. And I've always said, be your own independent source. Oh, honey, you read my mind. You hold that thought because we're going to get into this. But I'm going to pull your impeachment is the only path. Get it to the Senate, let them dig up the rest, and drag everyone from Obama to Barr. Oh, honey, you know, again, I have got the best audience on the internet. I genuinely swear to God, I do. I've got the best audience on the internet. Though we are small, we are fierce. Oh, Leanne, honey. Mwah. You hang on to that. You just hang right on to it. Okay. But get back to this FD 1023. I mean, read it for yourself. I mean, I'm going to. I've read parts of it already, but I want to really just comb through this thing. This thing was written 5 months before the election. I have a question starting out. Who the hell did the FBI sent on this thing? And why? Why was this information not acted upon? I know why. I got a strong feeling. Can't prove it totally, but I got a really deep-seated suspicion. Who sat on this? Who thought it was a really good idea that a bribery charge against a potential presidential candidate that people ought not know about this? Y'all over at the FBI want to explain yourselves on this one? God bless. But yeah, I mean, it's there in the article. Read it for yourself. Uh-huh. Yep. That's one reason. That's one reason, absolutely. But yeah, read it for yourself. And how much time is the gatekeeping media talked about this? 0. Zip zilch nada. Good morning, sir. Sorry you had to walk in on me ranting, Flagrant, but yeah, I'm on a roll right now. Woo! God, this pisses me. This pisses me off. This just genuinely pisses me off. That FD 1023 was out there for 5 months before the election, and we're just now finding out about it. Lay aside the Hunter laptop story. Lay aside the laptop story about Hunter Biden. This should have been talked about a hell of a long time ago, before October of 2020. He's compromised. He's crooked like a dog's hind leg. Now, okay, hang on. Let me pull it back together here for a second. I'm sorry. God bless it. This stuff just pisses me off. So, what to do about all this? Now, this is where there's a difference of opinion among various people who have been watching this story. And what I'm about to show you next, I want to say first of all, it's from Miranda Devine of the New York Post. And I want to read just a snippet of it, and then I'm going to give my opinion about it. This is from 2 days ago. The Joe Biden bribe allegations need special counsel now. If anything merits a special counsel, it is the allegations buried by the FBI that a corrupt Ukrainian oligarch paid millions to bribe, quote, the big guy, then Vice President Joe Biden, to get a Ukrainian prosecutor fired. The grave allegations contained in the FBI document released Thursday night by Chuck Grassley came to light only because of a patriotic whistleblower. It is an outrage that FBI Director Christopher Wray tried to hide this so-called FD 1023 document from a congressional oversight committee. It is an outrage that Delaware U.S. Attorney David Weiss buried it again when provided with the document in 2020 by Bill Barr after it had been vetted as credible through the U.S. Attorney's Office in Pittsburgh. Now, I have nothing but profound respect for Miranda Devine. In a lot of ways, in her own line of work, she's just like Grassley, she's just like Comer, she's just like all the rest. Just dogged determination. She and Emma Jo Morris and a handful of others have been all over this Hunter Biden laptop story ever since it broke 3 years ago. Okay? With all due respect to Miranda Devine, I profoundly disagree of getting a special counsel named to investigate this. And here's the worry that I've got. You put this in the hands of a special prosecutor, they're going to slow walk this thing past the election of 2024, and Joe Biden and Hunter will both get off scot-free. They'll whitewash this thing, they'll make it go away, and they'll never see the justice that they so richly deserve. Okay, so you may be out there asking the question, if we're not going to go the route of a special prosecutor, then what do we do? I'll tell you exactly what we do. We keep doing what we're doing. We're here right now because people like James Comer, people like, I believe it's Smith, who's the chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, they've been digging and digging and digging and digging and getting chopped, blocked every step of the way. But by God, their persistence is paying off, because this stuff is starting to come to light. Let the Congress keep investigating this. Let them keep pushing it. Let them keep talking about it. Because sooner or later, the mainstream media can't ignore this anymore. I know. They can not talk about any story they don't want to talk about. I understand that. But the weight, the avalanche of information, evidence, everything else that's coming forward, they cannot hold this back for much longer. There was something that John Solomon teased in that video clip I played before I started into this discussion, and that is Devon Archer is testifying before the House Oversight Committee next week. Devon Archer is Hunter's business partner. He worked with him on the whole Burisma thing. He's coming forward to testify. Now, I don't know what kind of deal he was made with him, but the fact that Devon Archer's willing to talk ought to tell you a whole lot. If you think this week's hearings have been explosive, just wait. It could get really good come next week. And yeah, I mean, I'm with you, Leanne. To name a special prosecutor now is not going to do you a bit of good. Do the words John Durham mean anything to anybody? Oh, Durham's going to get him. Durham's going to expose everybody. Durham's going to show it all. Yeah, well, we're out of here. If I had the confidence in a completely neutral and honest Justice Department, that I could maybe take Miranda Devine's idea and go with it. I can't do that anymore. I mean, look, I'm just one person. I'm a commenter on the news. I mean, things I see on the internet, things I see and read in the news, okay? But I am a citizen of the United States, and I can honestly look at this and go, oh, hell no. Hell no, don't you put this in the hands of a special prosecutor. Because nothing's going to happen. They won't touch him. And it'll take them too long to get the results. James Comer, Chuck Grassley, all those cats right now are doing the Lord's work against odds they shouldn't even have to fight, which goes to a whole other discussion of why is it that the deep state has more power than the people in Congress. But that's a whole other subject. Yeah, Cam, I absolutely agree with you. Yeah. And there are people on the Republican side who do not want to pursue this. And I'm sorry. There comes a point, and maybe I'm old-fashioned and maybe I'm naive, but there comes a point, by God, when your party and your partisanship, you put them to the side. This is about the good of the country. If Joe Biden, if it can be proven that Joe Biden took a $5 million bribe to get a prosecutor in Ukraine fired to the benefit of a company in Ukraine, and he and his son financially benefited from it, we're past the point of influence peddling. That's damn bribery. He's compromised. And go back and read the impeachment language in the U.S. Constitution. What's the first reason you can impeach somebody? Bribery. It's unambiguous. It's not a question of high crimes and misdemeanors. No, we don't have to debate what that means. Bullshit. We've got an evidence of it right here. We got tons of it. The only thing we need now are the recordings. And I'm not even sure we need that. You put aside your partisanship. You Democrats out there, you can't defend this anymore. Not after what Grassley just did. You've got a verified, confidential human asset who's come forward. He's laid out 4 pages of information telling you that the CEO of Burisma at the time said, yeah, we paid $5 million to Hunter, we paid $5 million to Joe. It's past the point of incontrovertible. You've got to do something. But he's our president, man. He's the head of our party. Screw that. Screw that. And if you don't want to do anything, do your country a favor. Resign your office right now. I'd rather have an honest enemy as I would a dishonest ally. Okay? But let's say you don't want to go the route of letting the Congress keep on working on this and let the political process play out. There's another way of doing it, but I still have my problems with this. Here's a recommendation. Former FBI Assistant Director of Intelligence Kevin Brock says there's enough evidence to warrant a full criminal investigation of President Joe Biden after the release of the FD 1023. Quote, there's more than enough here to do a full field investigation into the Bidens using every tool that the FBI has at its disposal to conduct that investigation. You have enough here for a full field criminal investigation, no doubt, but beyond that, we have assertions by the CHS, confidential human source, that the CEO of Burisma, Lovchevsky, tape recorded a lot of the conversations he had with Hunter, and it included 2 conversations he had directly with Joe Biden. The FBI needs to know what's on those tapes. The FBI needs to know what's on those tapes, but the only problem is they don't want to know. Dismantle the FBI. Yeah. That blew up. Boom. Boom shakalaka. That's gone. Democrats can't say, oh, there was no quid pro quo. Really? Every time that video clip with Joe Biden gets played, oh, no, there's no quid pro quo. That's being taken out of context. That's not what he was talking about. Oh, yeah? Go talk to the confidential human source that's in that FD 1023 and then come back and try and tell me it wasn't quid pro quo. My blood pressure's probably up. But for good reason. It's right there. And I do not, for any number of reasons, I do not want to see the country go through this again. Andrew Johnson, Richard Nixon, Bill Clinton, Donald Trump once, Donald Trump twice. But I am telling you right now, like I said, they may not even need the tapes to be able to prove this. But if they get their hands on the recordings and they've got on them these conversations, and there's anything that ties all this up, then it's over. Start writing up the paperwork in the House Judiciary Committee for the articles. And the top article is bribery. Oh, but he wasn't president then. He wasn't president. Yeah, no, Robert, you may be absolutely right. You may be absolutely right. And I get it. I get it. It's out there. Do something. If you're not going to do something, then why are you in Congress? Why are you even there? But no, in my opinion, let the Congress keep doing what they're doing. I don't think this can be trusted to a prosecution by the FBI and the Justice Department. They're corrupt. They won't do anything to him. They don't do anything with it. I think Rob's right. They'll bury it. They'll bury the thing and nothing's going to happen. But to pivot for just a moment, these two weren't the only things happening in Congress. There was another set of hearings in front of the House Judiciary Committee, and I didn't reference this in the headline to today's live stream, but I got reminded about it. Like, we ought to talk about this. The House Judiciary Committee had a hearing on censorship, and its star witness was Robert Kennedy Jr. Oh, one last comment before we start getting into this. Yeah, good point. He wasn't president, which makes it worse because strategic national defense can't come into play. That's a good question, and that's what a lot of people are asking. That's a real good question. Because I have a real hard time believing that if this was going on, and I have very little doubt now that it was, there's just too much damned evidence, then I have a very hard time believing that President Barack Obama did not know this was going on. Now, it's possible. It's very possible. But man, the steps he would have had to have either taken deliberately or just by pure luck to make sure he didn't know about this would be extraordinary. Either he's the luckiest politician on earth to be totally ignorant of this stuff, or he and his staff were separating themselves so hard from Joe Biden that you hear the term wall of separation, it must have been sky high. And Robert, you may be absolutely right, dude. I'm probably with you on this one. Yep. Remember Obama's very famous phrase, never discount Joe Biden's ability to F something up. Maybe this is what he was talking about. Yeah, just saying. Just saying. Now, let me get my blood pressure back in order here and reference the censorship hearing. Now, this one was almost comical for what the Democrats tried to do. So, as I said a moment ago, the star witness was Robert Kennedy Jr., and this hearing revolved around the discussions about Twitter and alternative information, etc. And Robert Kennedy was brought up. And I want to play, it's a clip that's going to run about a minute and a half. And it just, to me, this clip kind of speaks to the decency that is Robert Kennedy. Now, like I said, I may disagree with him on a lot of his political issues, but just the decency of the guy, you really can't dispute it. So I want to play this to set up what happens next. So hang on a second. I think y'all are going to enjoy this.
Today, we need to give an example in the leadership of our country of being respectful to each other. If you think I said something that's anti-Semitic, let's talk about the details. I'm telling you all the things that I'm accused of right now by you. And in this letter are distortions, they're misrepresentations. I didn't say those things. There's fragments that I said, but I denounce anybody who uses the words that I have said to imply something that is negative about people who are Jewish. I never said those things. And I want to point out also that the chairman pointed to Dennis Kucinich, who's fighting behind me. There is no two people in the country who feel more differently about American politics than these two people. And yet they were friends. Dennis attended his children's basketball games, attended his daughter's wedding. This is what we need, how we need to start treating each other in this country. We have to stop trying to destroy each other, to marginalize, to vilify, to gaslight each other. We have to find that place inside of ourselves of light, of empathy, of compassion, and above all, we need to elevate the Constitution of the United States, which was written for hard times, and that has to be the premier compass for all of our activities. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to raise a point of order.
Start.
I'd like to raise a gag and shut that woman's mouth, but that's a whole other argument. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say that out loud? I apologize. Lord, I'm sorry, and please be with the starving pygmies in New Guinea. Amen. The man's accused of anti-Semitism stands up in front of the very Democrats who did that to him and said, "What's the matter with you guys?" Which, by the way, goes to something else. And I guess this is personal psychology, and I'll never truly know the answer, but it does make me think. How disappointed must Robert Kennedy Jr. feel that friends of his, who he has probably given money to their campaigns, he may have even campaigned for them, issued statements of endorsement, the normal things that you would do in American politics. How must it make him feel to now fully realize how much they're willing to chuck loyalty and friendship and knowledge and everything else in the name of the acquisition of political power? They're accusing Robert Kennedy in this what he's referring to. There's a letter that was signed by 130 different Democrats accusing him of anti-Semitism. Statements that he made previously that, are being taken to mean that he's anti-Semitic. These are probably friends of his, or perhaps even longtime friends of the Kennedy family. How must that make him feel? Just something to think about. So, Kennedy gives an opening statement in this hearing before the House Judiciary Committee. And what happens next? Well, I give the Democrats credit. You gotta admire originality. Only at a censorship hearing do you try to engage in censorship. Watch this.
And instead of debating him or giving him a chance to explain himself, Democrats tried to shut him up.
I move that we move into executive session because Mr. Kennedy has repeatedly made despicable anti-Semitic and anti-Asian comments.
Is it the custom of this committee to censor viewpoints that we disagree with from witnesses?
Mr. Chairman, I have
That's not a point of
I have
order.
a motion on the table.
Democrats wanted to censor RFK Jr. at a censorship hearing. This is the party who spent years railing against Big Pharma and not trusting the science. But now, all of a sudden, they're scared of a Democrat asking questions?
Boom. Boom. And he's absolutely right, by the way. I give Jesse Waters a lot of credit for pointing out the obvious. This is the party of civil rights. This is the party that believes in free speech. This is the party that has hated Big Pharma for years. This is the party that's hated big corporations for years, supposedly. And now all of a sudden, when one of their own is asking questions of them related to these subjects, it's like, shut him up! He cannot be allowed to have his say. Harumph, 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 harumph. The hell? This is one of the members of the greatest political family in America in history. Now, you can disagree with their politics all you want to. You drop the name Kennedy, that's got currency. Maybe not as much as it once did. But if you say Kennedy, people still have to take notice. But no, we can't have people noticing him. He speaks things that we do not want to discuss. So the Democrats, and the motion that Wasserman Schultz, one of my favorite Democrats to dislike, the motion to go into executive committee means they have to shut out the press, get the people out of the committee hearing room, and only the witnesses and the committee can know what is being said. Literally, the Democrats are trying to engage in censorship at a censorship hearing. Oh, you have to admire the originality. You may hate the result, but you gotta give them credit for creativity. Man, unbe-frickin-leavable. They still had the hearing, by the way. The motions were defeated, but just unbelievable. Unbelievable. Oh gosh. What time of the day is it? I've been sitting here ranting and raving. Oh my word, it's 12 o'clock. As that old Southern preacher once said, children, I've got to hurry. This is Front Porch Brunch. My name is Brian Trippett. I am your Front Porch conservative. And we've been sitting here talking about some of the news that's gone on from the past week, to the benefit in part of one of our folks out there in the audience, Leanne. We've heard about, you told us what happened to you, and bless your heart. We hope you recover very, very well. Yeah, it was a dumpster fire, but pretty informative. That's all I'm saying. I'm just going to touch on a couple of the things real quick that have gone on this week. I think one of them I'm going to kind of skip over. And one of them I'm going to take that one out of the rotation. Might come back to it at some point. Now, for those of you, we'll spend these last few minutes talking about something that is upcoming, or things that are upcoming. As you know, or you may have heard, former President Donald Trump is facing various legal troubles. Some of them in New York City, some of them down in Miami. Earlier this week, he announced that he was going to be made to appear before a grand jury in Washington, D.C. And then, late this week, a new item has dropped. Now, this one, I'm very curious to see how this prosecutor is going to make this stick. So there'll be some people I watch this weekend to try and get their opinion on it. So check this out. This is from the New York Post. Trump to face racketeering charge in Georgia. for attempting to overturn 2020 election, report by Josh Christensen. Atlanta's top prosecutor is preparing to charge former President Donald Trump with racketeering for his efforts to overturn the 2020 election results in Georgia. Fulton County District Attorney Fannie Willis will apparently accuse Trump of influencing witnesses and computer trespassing. The Guardian reported Friday in what could be the former president's fourth indictment this year. Trump made several phone calls to Georgia election officials after his electoral loss to now President Biden, asking Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger in one infamous conversation to, quote, find 11,780 votes to overturn his defeat in the Peach State. Willis also probed the involvement of ex-Trump attorney Sidney Powell in the alleged breach of Dominion voting system machines that relayed election data from Coffee County. Sources briefed on the matter told the outlet. The indictment could be handed down as soon as early next month, August, basically. And there's a picture of Fannie Willis. Charming looking individual. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Robert. They're out. Yeah. I'm probably going to have my eyes tuned to the live stream this coming Sunday night for Viva Fry and Robert Barnes, because no doubt this is going to be, I'd be shocked if this is not brought up. But even if it's not brought up in that live stream, catch those two guys, because talk about some brilliant legal commentary. They both lay it down. They usually do it Sunday night at 6 o'clock. I'm like you, Robert. I think they're grabbing at straws on this one. Or she is, anyway. And it just, New York City, Miami, Washington, D.C., possibly this one if it's handed down. It's like, my God, what have you got left? But it does go to something else that I would like to bring up. And it's not anything new, but, you know, it does bear repeating, because apparently some people out there just don't get it. They just don't understand what kind of effect this is having. This is from Real Clear Politics. Let's see, when did the first one come down in New York City? What was that, back in April? I think it was. April or May? Somebody out there in the chat help me out here. That first indictment in New York City, was it April or was it May? No, I'm sorry. It may have been March. It may have been March. But if somebody can remember this, please let me know. Ever since that first indictment from Alvin Bragg up in New York City to current, Trump is still holding a 30-point lead on his opponents. Now, the numbers vary depending on whose poll you're talking about, but if you average them together, the guy's holding a 30-point lead. He's not losing any support. And worse yet, his opponents are running out of time. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. We're now almost down to 5.5 months before the Iowa caucuses. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, Cam, that'd be the first thing I'd do if this thing in Georgia comes down. I'd be asking for a change of venue. I'd get it out of Atlanta for sure. Yeah, and Robert, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. But it doesn't, you're throwing all these indictments at Trump. You know. Now, the Democrats are doing it for different reasons. Okay, their reasons might be different than what the Republicans want to see it happen for. But the net result's the same. They want to take down Trump. Well, I got bad news for you Democrats. If you somehow think that this is going to take him down, at least politically, you're having the opposite effect. The voters in the Republican caucuses and the Republican primaries are going to vote for Trump. Their bond to him at this point is unbreakable. And now you ask what that's doing in the general election? Harvard-Harris poll just came out, well, 2 days ago? Trump +5. If you take all the polls and average them together, Trump and Biden are neck and neck. Now, for all you I'm not Donald Trumpers out there, fine. And I'm not even talking about supporters. I'm talking about politicians, okay? How piss poor of a campaign do you have to be running that you're relying on judicial indictments to take down your political opponent? Just saying. I mean, that's the whole strategy of the DeSantis campaign. DeSantis honestly thought that the indictments would weaken Donald Trump enough that people would come off of him as far as support, and they'd be looking for a new home, and Ron DeSantis could just swoop in, gobble all these people up, have a big, roll to the nomination, etc., so on, yeah. Well, DeSantis is running such a horrible campaign. He's burning through money like a drunken sailor, to the point now he is relaunching or revamping, or whatever the term is they use these days. Translation, I'm out of money. I can't do the show as big as I want to do it, so I got to cut back on the budget. Those pieces of news came out this week. So just unbelievable. I mean, and I'm not the only one that's expressing the worry that I'm about to say, but here's the concern that I've got. If the Republican establishment can't stop Trump at the ballot box during the primaries and during the primaries, are they going to try and steal it from him at the convention or just before the convention? Now, I am not trying to be conspiratorial here. I am not. I do not want to see it happen. But it would not surprise me. This is a good question. This is a really good question. Cam, I'm going to say Trump by a nose. And here's what I'm getting at. I think they both have the fervor to take down a significant portion of the deep state. I think that Kennedy, and I'll agree with that too. I'll agree with Robert. I'll agree with that. Remains to be seen. There's one thing to talk about. There's another thing to do it. But the point I was getting ready to make was this. I think Kennedy would take down a significant portion of the health bureaucracy. I could see him taking down a significant portion of the FBI and a real good chunk out of the CIA, and that's personally motivated, but we'll leave it at that. But I think Trump has got just a little bit more incentive to do it because he's pissed. Now, people are going to say, oh, he's not doing... No, don't tell me personal motivation isn't going to factor into some of what he does if he's reelected. Don't tell me it's not. He's a human being. How can it not factor in? Now, you hope that it's not his total motivation, but it's going to factor in. So, that's a real good question. But I'll say Trump by a nose. And I'd say he'd probably go deeper than what RFK might do, if for no other reason because of political ideology. So, remains to be seen. Remains to be seen. Lots of good stuff. Hey, Welsh, dude, you the man. Welcome, my friend. Glad to have you, brother. Glad to see you. Love what you're doing these days on your channel, brother. By the way, if you are not subscribed to Welsh Republic, this guy has a wonderful channel, just like Flagrant Trigger, just like Crash. Go on and subscribe. Give that guy some support, man. Check him out. He does a fabulous interview. He's really good at what he does. So definitely check him out. Any social content creator in here, be it Flagrant Triggers or Welsh Republic, check them out by all means. Let's help each other. You know, it's a long way up that mountain. I'll take somebody that lends me a hand, and I'll lend a hand to somebody else. So, it's about 12:15. We're getting close to wrapping this thing up, because God knows y'all probably get tired of hearing me rant. And like I say, I apologize. Normally I don't get that fired up, but God, that stuff about Biden is just. Anyway, let's end this on a happier note. I'm doing good. I am doing good, Welsh. I'm like everybody else. I'm traveling the road. You know, sometimes the road's bumpy and sometimes it's smooth, but otherwise, I'm doing fine. But I appreciate you asking. Genuinely, I do. Let's end this session on a happier note and just kind of talk about an update. We'll call it, we'll throw this into the HodgePodge Stew. Let's get an update on Sound of Freedom. This is from Box Office Mojo, and this, to me, does my heart good. This is the daily tally for how movies performed on Thursday, July 20th. Sound of Freedom topped everybody, including Mission Impossible. 3.7 million. Mission Impossible 3.4. Dumpster Fire of Dysentery 1.3 million, etc. How's Sound of Freedom doing overall? $104 million. $104 million. God bless. This is awesome. This really is. And now, how's this movie going to do this weekend, given that intersectional feminist Barbie and what other movies? Oppenheimer's coming out? No idea. I will make a prediction. This is just for what it's worth. I wouldn't be surprised if Sound of Freedom winds up being fourth. At a minimum, it'll be in the top 5. Okay. If I had to guess, I'm gonna say intersectional feminist Barbie's gonna be number 1. Oppenheimer's number 2. Mission Impossible 3, and Sound of Freedom 4. But that's just me. I could be dead wrong about that, but I just got a feeling that's how it's going to lay out. But, daggone. Talk about the little movie that could. No marketing budget. No major press to speak of. Could you imagine if you gave them $100 million to spend on marketing, how much more that movie could have done? But the fact that, like, word of mouth, grassroots, spreading the word, and they've made $104 million, and still with the potential to keep on going, you know. I'm going to risk it here. It would not surprise me if before it is all said and done, if that movie eclipses the $150 million mark. It really wouldn't. Okay, all right. We got some bets here on how this is going down. Flagrant Trigger saying Oppenheimer, Barbie, Sound of Freedom. All right. Yeah, that's true. We were all teenagers once, so I get it. But yeah, okay, all right. We'll come back to this next Saturday and see what we've got. I'll try to make it a point to jot that one down, and we'll come back and see how everybody's prediction came out on this. But gosh, I'm tickled to death for everybody over at Angel Studios. I really am. This is going to be the gatekeeping media will never admit to it, but this has got to be one of the most amazing accomplishments of any film in America in a very long time. I am just tickled to death. I really am. And it kind of goes back to something that Crash and Flagrant and I were talking about Thursday night when we got together to chat. What I call green shoots of hope. Sound of Freedom, the Jason Aldean controversy, the Bud Light controversy, Target, all of them. They're little green shoots of hope. Now, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying we don't have a lot of problems in this country, and God knows it's going to take us a while to straighten them out. And the hour is, and it's very dark. But there are rays of light that are starting to poke through. And it makes me think it's bad, but there might yet be hope. So I throw that out there for your consideration. Okay. It's 12:20 on a Saturday afternoon, and I need to go touch grass. Translation, I got to go mow it, among other things I got to do. So my name is Brian Trippett. This has been Front Porch Brunch. You guys, as always, you're awesome. I love having you as part of the show. For everybody who stopped by this morning, Robert, Flagrant, Leanne, Welsh, everybody, thank you so much for dropping in. You guys are an absolute pleasure. Next week, we're going to have more videos coming out. Thursday, I am going to have a session of Chatting on the Porch with Dr. Oren Armate. He was recommended to me by a podcaster named Greg Wilson. Greg and I were recently on something that Mike Harlow put together. And Greg referred me to Dr. Amate. We're going to be talking about free speech in the area of psychology and a host of whole other issues. I'll start putting out the advertisement for it today. So it'll be 6:30 Eastern Thursday night. So if you're not able to see it live, don't worry. It's going to be recorded. It'll be on my channels. It'll be on YouTube. It'll be on Rumble. But that's going to be a really interesting conversation. I hope you're able to join us. Next Thursday night, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, myself, Dr. Oren Amate, for a session of Chatting on the Porch. So thank you for everybody who has stopped by this morning, for everybody who's left comments. You guys have been awesome. Thank you, as always, for continuing to spread the word about this little channel. I look at, like an obsessive compulsive that I am, I look at statistics every day, and I see this channel growing. I see you guys supporting. I see you guys spreading the word. You guys are probably one of the most awesome audiences on the whole of the internet. And I'm going to keep this train going for as long as breath and body and time and circumstance will allow me to do it. And knowing you guys have got my back is probably one of the most encouraging things that I can be made aware of. So, as always, I will leave you with the words of that American philosopher, the legendary Tom T. Hall. Just remember, folks, it's faster horses, younger lovers, older whiskey, and more money. We'll see.